Kyle Brooks walked into the big room where all the alien leaders sat. The room had walls that looked like glass but sparkled like stars. Creatures from 12 different worlds sat in chairs that went up toward the ceiling. All of them looked at him. Kyle was the only human in the room. A tall alien with 4 arms spoke first. His name was Vraxen, and he was in charge of many things. His voice came into Kyle's head through a special device. He did not sound happy. "Your people are new here. You do not understand what we face. The Vraxen have destroyed worlds that were old when your people still lived in caves." Kyle kept his face calm. "We read your history files. The Vraxen have taken 43 star systems in 200 years. A female alien whose skin glowed spoke up. Her name was Linara. 47 systems. They took another one last month while we talked about what to do." The room got loud. All the aliens started talking at once. Kyle waited and watched. He had been told this would happen. These aliens were very old and liked to talk about things for a long time. They were good at talking. They talked a lot. But they were not good at fighting wars. Up in a special viewing area, an older man named Marcus Gray watched Kyle. Marcus had been the first human to meet aliens 30 years ago. He knew that humans brought something new to space. Humans still remembered how to fight. Barracks raised one hand to make everyone quiet. "We heard what you want to do. You say you can stop the Vraxen. You talk about fighting in ways that seem rough to us, mean. We are peaceful people." Kyle spoke quietly, but his words were strong. "You are dying. Sir, you have lost 7 star systems in 3 years. Your ships run away, wait, and run away again. You fight like you are defending. The enemy only knows how to attack." Another alien that looked like it was made of crystal made a sound. "We fight with honor. We try not to kill too many. We follow rules of war that are 10,000 years old. The Vraxen do not care about your rules. They do not take prisoners. They do not talk. They take over worlds, steal everything useful, and move on. You follow rules they threw away a long time ago." Linara's glow became sad and blue. "What do you want us to do? Become like them? Stop being good? No. I want you to live. There is nothing good about everyone dying." Nobody said anything. The quiet was heavy. Marcus smiled a little. Kyle was learning how to talk to these aliens. Varric stood up. He was very tall. "The council will think about this. You and your soldiers will wait. We will see if your human ways work." He did not sound like he believed they would. When Kyle left the room, a young woman named Rachel Moore was waiting for him. She was only 25, but her eyes looked older. She had been in fights before. Most humans had. Earth had only stopped fighting wars in the last 30 years. Before that, humans fought each other for hundreds of years. "How did it go, sir?" "About what I expected. They think we are wild and mean." Rachel walked next to him. "Are they wrong?" Kyle thought about it. "Maybe. But we are wild people who know how to win wars. Sometimes that matters more." They walked through the big space station. Aliens from all over the galaxy were doing normal things. Trading, talking, making art, studying science. The Alliance had built something beautiful, something worth saving. The question was if they would let him save it. In his room, Kyle looked at a map that showed where the Vraxen ships were. Red dots spread across the star map like a disease. Each red dot was a conquered world. The Alliance ships were marked in blue. They were all bunched up close together, trying to protect what was left. The pattern was easy to see if you understood war. The Vraxen were not just attacking randomly. They were cutting the Alliance into smaller pieces. They were cutting off supply lines. They were trapping the defenders in smaller and smaller areas. It was basic war strategy, the kind humans had used on Earth for thousands of years, the kind these aliens seemed to have forgotten. His communication device made a sound. It was Marcus. "Kyle, we have a problem. A Vraxen fleet just appeared in the Hadrian system. The council wants you in the war room right now." Kyle was already moving. "On my way." 5 billion people lived in the Hadrian system. If it fell, the Alliance would lose their main shipbuilding yards. The war would be over. When Kyle got to the war room, everyone looked worried. Light pictures in the air showed the Hadrian system being attacked. 12 huge Vraxen warships had appeared from nowhere. Their dark ships had many weapons. The Alliance ships that were supposed to defend the system were already running away. They are following their rules. An admiral named Chen Wei explained. He was human. They fall back to safe positions. They wait for help. They try not to lose too many ships. By the time help comes, the Vraxen will control the space around the planet. They will start bombing it in 6 hours. Varix turned to him. All his politeness was gone. What would you do, human? Kyle looked at the pictures floating in the air. His mind was already working out plans and timing. I would stop running. I would stop fighting their way. I would show them what human soldiers do when 5 billion lives are in danger. You have 4 ships, the crystal alien said. The Vraxen have 12. Each one is bigger than all your ships together. 4 ships, and 3,000 soldiers who remember what it means to fight to survive. He turned to Varix. Let me command this fight. If I fail, you can go back to running away and following your rules. But if I win, you let us fight this war our way. The leader looked at him for a long time. Other aliens around the room watched and waited. Finally, Varix made a movement that meant yes in many different alien cultures. Very well. Show us what legends look like. Try not to get everyone killed. Kyle allowed himself a small, cold smile. Sir, the only ones dying today are the Vraxen. Rachel, get me Captain Stevens and the other ship commanders. We have work to do. The room became busy with activity. Marcus caught Kyle's eye and nodded once. It was time to show the galaxy what humans had learned in 10,000 years of war. It was time to walk into the fire. The dropship shook hard as it flew through the battle. Laser fire and plasma bolts turned space into a deadly light show. Rachel Moore held tight to her harness. Her stomach felt strange, but it was not because of how the ship was moving. She had fought before. She had killed before. But she had never tried to board an enemy capital ship in the middle of a big battle while that ship was trying to destroy a planet. There was a first time for everything, Kyle. Brooke sat across from her looking calm. He was checking his weapons carefully. His rifle had special bullets made for this mission. His pistol was heavy and could punch through most armor. On his leg was a combat knife that had been used in 3 wars. 2 minutes. The pilot, Jennifer Stone, announced. Her voice was steady, even though she was flying through what was basically a storm of weapons fire. She was one of the best dropship pilots in the human fleet. Right now, she was proving it. Kyle turned on the team communication. Listen up, we have one job. Reach the bridge and stop the bombing systems. The Vraxen will not expect people to board them. They have never had to defend against attacks from inside. We use that. We move fast. We hit hard. We do not stop. Sergeant Lisa Chen was the squad leader. She smiled fiercely. She was a small woman with scars and eyes that had seen too much. Rules of engagement, sir. Anything between us and that bridge is a threat. Stop it. But remember, we are here to stop a planet bombing, not to kill everyone. We disable the ship. We get out. Corporal Nathan Price checked his explosive charges. Sir, intelligence says Vraxen are tough. 7 feet tall, armored skin. Strength that makes our strongest troops look weak. Intelligence is right. They are bigger, stronger, and their bodies give them advantages we do not have. They are also predictable. They follow rules strictly. They have never faced an enemy who thinks differently. He looked at each soldier. They may be stronger, but we are meaner. The dropship jumped violently as it dodged a plasma bolt. Jennifer's voice came through tense but controlled. 30 seconds to hull contact. Breaching in 5, 4, 3. The magnetic clamps grabbed onto the enemy ship with a loud metal sound. Then came the high sound of cutting lasers as they began slicing through the Vraxen warship's hull. It would take 8 seconds to create an opening big enough for the team to enter. Rachel used those 8 seconds to think about her training. Close fighting, moving in 0 gravity, emergency medical aid, all the things that might keep her alive in the next hour. If they lived an hour. If they lived 10 minutes. The cutting lasers finished and Nathan set off the breaching charges. The section of hull blew inward. The team was moving before the smoke cleared, flowing through the opening like water, weapons up looking for targets. They found themselves in what looked like a storage bay. Huge crates were locked to the floor. The lighting was harsh and hurt human eyes. The gravity was higher than Earth, making every movement feel slow and heavy. Clear, Lisa reported, her rifle sweeping the space. No contacts. Kyle pulled up a light picture of the ship's layout. It was made from sensor scans and intelligence reports. Bridge is 17 levels up, forward section. We need to move. Rachel, you are with me on point. Lisa, rear guard. Nathan, you are on explosives. They moved out, and within 30 seconds they met their first Vraxen. The alien came around a corner at full speed. Rachel got her first real look at the enemy that had been scaring the galaxy. 7 feet of muscle and shell armor, 4 arms each ending in clawed hands. A head that was more like a helmet. Eyes that glowed with an inner light. It was scary. It was designed to be scary. Rachel shot it 3 times in the center before it could react. The armor-piercing rounds punched through the shell. The Vraxen went down, dark blood spreading across the floor. Contact down, she reported, surprised at how steady her voice was. Moving, but the alarm was raised. Warning sounds began to wail. The ship's internal defense systems activated. Doors started to seal. Automatic guns came out of the ceiling. Somewhere in the ship, hundreds of Vraxen warriors began moving toward the intruders. Double time, Kyle ordered, and the team began to run. They fought their way through 3 levels. Rachel lost count of how many times she fired her weapon. The Vraxen were strong, fast, and fearless, but they fought with tactics made for open warfare, not corridor fighting. They charged forward in groups, making perfect targets for well-placed gunfire. The humans, by contrast, had spent centuries perfecting the art of urban combat. Fighting in tight spaces where size and strength mattered less than speed and accuracy. They used corners for cover. They fell back when needed. They focused fire to bring down targets quickly. But the Vraxen kept coming. Elevator shaft ahead. Nathan called out, marking it on their tactical display. We can use the maintenance ladders to skip the next 5 levels. Do it, Kyle ordered. He turned to Lisa. Set charges on this door. Give us a minute head start, then blow it. Slow them down. Lisa was already moving, placing explosive charges with practiced skill. 60 seconds on my mark. Go. The team poured into the elevator shaft, climbing with desperate speed. Behind them, they could hear the Vraxen forces coming closer, the thunder of alien feet on metal floors. Then Lisa's charges exploded. The shockwave shook the entire shaft. Debris rained down. For a few precious seconds, the pursuit stopped. They came out into a corridor that looked different from the lower levels, more refined with surfaces that seemed to shift and flow with information. They were getting close to command spaces, movement ahead. Rachel reported, her rifle coming up. Multiple contacts. Heavy armor. What came around the corner was not normal Vraxen soldiers. These were bigger. Their armor was thicker. They carried weapons that looked like they could cut through ship walls. Elite guards. They were close enough to the bridge that the command staff had sent their best. Grenade out, Kyle said calmly and tossed one. The explosion in the tight space was deafening. The lead guard went down, but the others kept coming, returning fire with energy weapons that turned parts of the corridor into molten metal. The firefight was brutal and short. Lisa took a hit that melted part of her armor, but she kept fighting. Nathan ran out of bullets and switched to his pistol without missing a beat. Rachel felt something hot graze her shoulder but ignored it, focused entirely on hitting targets. And Kyle moved through the chaos like death itself. His rifle firing in controlled bursts, every shot finding its mark. He was not the best shooter Rachel had ever seen, but he was the most efficient, wasting nothing. When the last elite guard fell, the team was battered, bleeding, but still moving. Bridge is through that door, Kyle said, pointing to a massive sealed door that probably needed permission from a dozen Vraxen officers to open properly. Nathan looked at his remaining charges and smiled. I love it when they make things complicated. He began placing explosives on the door, working with focused intensity. Behind them, they could hear more Vraxen forces approaching. They were out of time. Fire in the hole, Nathan said, and triggered the charges. The door blew inward and the team went through the smoke into the bridge of a Vraxen warship. What they found there would change everything. The Vraxen bridge was like a temple of war. Light pictures filled the air with tactical data, showing the battle outside in terrible detail. Crew stations formed a circle around a central command seat where the ship's captain stood. All 4 arms moved across control surfaces, directing the bombing of Hadrian Prime that would begin in less than 3 minutes. The captain turned as the human strike team burst through the broken door. It was larger than the other Vraxen they had fought. Its armor had symbols that probably showed rank and honor. Its eyes, that glowing light that was so alien, focused on Kyle Brooks with what might have been surprise. Then surprise became rage. The bridge crew moved with coordinated skill, leaving their stations to form a defensive line. There were 12 of them, each one armed and armored, each one trained for combat. The humans had maybe 40 bullets left between them and were running on exhaustion and fear energy. The numbers were not in their favor. The numbers had never been in their favor. Rachel, Nathan, hold the door, Kyle ordered. Lisa, you are with me. We take the command seat. The firefight that started was pure chaos. Energy weapons burned the air. Bullets bounced off armored surfaces. The tight space of the bridge became a killing zone where every angle was deadly. Rachel found cover behind what looked like a navigation console and began taking careful shots. Behind her, Nathan was setting up a defensive position at the door because more Vraxen were coming. The sound of their approach was like thunder in the hallways. Kyle and Lisa pushed forward, moving with the smooth coordination of soldiers who had trained together for years. They used smoke grenades to block Vraxen targeting. They used the bridge's own equipment for cover. They never stopped moving, but the Vraxen captain was not idle. It drew a weapon from its armor, something massive and ornate that crackled with barely contained energy. When it fired, the bolt of plasma carved a deep line through the floor and vaporized a console where Lisa had been standing a second before. That is not standard equipment, Lisa muttered, diving behind another piece of equipment, probably ceremonial. Which means it is powerful but slow to charge. Lisa, covering fire on my mark, they moved in perfect sync. Lisa popped up and fired a burst from her rifle, forcing the captain to take cover. In that moment of distraction, Kyle sprinted forward, closing the distance faster than the Vraxen expected. The captain swung one of its massive arms, a blow that would have broken bones if it connected. But Kyle had fought heavy troops before. He had learned to use an opponent's weight against them. He ducked under the swing, stepped inside the captain's reach, and drove his combat knife up through a gap in the armor. The blade found something vital. The captain staggered. Dark blood sprayed from the wound. Kyle pulled back, bringing his pistol up, and put 3 rounds into the weakened armor at close range. The Vraxen captain fell. For a moment, the bridge went silent. The remaining crew stared at their fallen leader, at the human who had just killed the most decorated warrior on the ship in single combat. Then they charged. It was desperate and suicidal. Exactly what Kyle had been counting on. Now. He shouted, and Lisa triggered the improvised explosive she had been putting together from her remaining charges and Nathan's spare power cells. The explosion tore through the center of the bridge, taking out the charging Vraxen and most of the command systems. Alarms wailed. Fires erupted from damaged consoles. The ship's systems began failing in waves. Kyle pulled himself up, ears ringing, and stumbled toward the command seat. The controls were alien, but the ideas of warfare were universal. He found what had to be the weapon systems and began shutting them down one by one. The bombing sequence stopped with 90 seconds to spare. Bridge secured. He reported over the communication device. Bombing prevented. Status on the fleet? Jake Stevens' voice came back. Kyle could hear the exhaustion and relief. Vraxen forces are retreating. We won, Kyle. We actually won. Rachel appeared at Kyle's side. Her armor was burned and dented. Blood ran from a cut above her eye. Sir Nathan is down. He took hits holding the door. Lisa is with him, but Kyle was moving before she finished, crossing the ruined bridge to where Nathan lay. The young soldier was pale. His armor was broken in multiple places, but he was still breathing. Sir, Nathan whispered, managing a weak smile. Did we get them? We got them. You held that door against an army, Nathan. You saved 5 billion lives today. Good. Nathan said, then coughed, and Kyle saw the blood. That is good. Tell my mom I went out like a legend, yeah? You are not going out, Lisa said fiercely, putting pressure on the worst wounds. Medical help is on the way. You hang on. You hear me, Price? That is an order. Nathan tried to laugh, but it turned into another cough. His eyes were starting to lose focus. Always did like taking orders from you, Sarge. The medical team arrived 5 minutes later. But for Corporal Nathan Price, age 23, veteran of the Unification Wars and the First Contact campaign. 5 minutes was too long. He died on the bridge of an enemy warship, having saved billions of lives he would never meet. He died a hero. He died far from home, helping species he barely knew, fighting an enemy that should have been unstoppable. He died doing what human soldiers had always done, standing in the fire so others did not have to. Later, after they had returned to the Alliance station, after the wounded had been treated and the reports completed, Kyle stood alone in the observation area looking out at the stars. General Marcus Gray found him there. The old soldier stood beside his former student, saying nothing for a long moment. "We lost good people today, we always do. That is the price of victory. The price of war. It never gets easier, Kyle. It should not get easier. The day we stop feeling these losses is the day we become like the Vraxen. Was it worth it? Nathan's life, the lives of everyone else we lost for a single system?" Marcus turned to look at him. 5 billion people are alive tonight because of what you did. Children who will grow up, have families, contribute to the galaxy, cultures preserved, knowledge saved, futures secured. Nathan gave his life so those futures could exist. You tell me, was it worth it? Kyle thought of Nathan's last smile, of his request to tell his mother he went out like a legend. Yes. Yes, it was worth it. But that does not make it hurt less. No, it does not. But here is what you need to understand, Kyle. The Alliance watched what happened today. They saw human tactics in action. They saw what we are capable of when we step into the fire. Tomorrow, High Chancellor Varix is going to offer you overall command of the Alliance military forces. Kyle looked at him sharply. What? You won them a battle they thought was impossible to win. You proved that human methods, human aggression, human willingness to do whatever it takes can turn the tide against the Vraxen. They are going to want you to teach them how to fight like us. We paid for that victory in blood. All victories are paid for in blood. The question is, are you willing to keep paying that price to save the Alliance? To save the galaxy? Marcus put a hand on his shoulder. Think about it, Kyle, but think fast. Because the Vraxen are not going to wait for us to make up our minds. As Marcus left, Kyle turned back to the stars. Somewhere out there, the Vraxen were regrouping, planning their next move. And somewhere out there, billions of innocent beings were depending on soldiers they did not know, fighting battles in their names. Kyle Brooks had stepped into the fire today. The question was, how many more times would he have to do it before the flames finally consumed him? 3 months after the Battle of Hadrian, the Galactic Alliance was different. The council chambers still sparkled with starlight through crystal walls, but the discussions had changed. Where once there had been endless debates about rules and procedures, now there was action. High Chancellor Varix stood at the center of the chamber. His forearms pointed to the light picture that showed the current state of the war. The red markers showing Vraxen forces had stopped moving forward. In some places they had even begun to retreat. For the first time in a century, we are winning. The gathered representatives erupted in sounds of approval. Ambassador Linara of the Civian delegation, her light pulsing with careful hope, raised a question. Chancellor, we have pushed back the Vraxen advance in 3 systems, but at what cost? We have adopted human tactics, human strategies. We have become more aggressive, more warlike. Are we losing ourselves in the process? Kyle Brooks, now promoted to Fleet Admiral of the Alliance Combined Forces, stepped forward. In 3 months, he had become a figure of both admiration and controversy. The warrior who had saved Hadrian, the human who taught peaceful species how to kill efficiently, the legend who stepped into fire and came out victorious. Ambassador Linara raises a fair concern. We have changed how you fight. We have made you more aggressive, more willing to take risks, more comfortable with sacrifice. These are not easy changes. They should not be easy changes. He pointed to the light picture, highlighting a system that had been freed 2 weeks before. But consider the Tellurian system. When the Vraxen attacked, the defense fleet did not retreat. They held position. They fought with tactics we taught them. They won. 3 billion people are alive because your soldiers learned to be aggressive when it mattered. The crystal alien made a sound. Admiral Brooks, you have taught us well. Too well, perhaps. My people have adopted your methods with enthusiasm that borders on obsession. We have soldiers who speak of becoming legends, who seek glory in battle. This is not our way. This has never been our way. No, it is not your way. It is our way. It is the human way, made in 10,000 years of warfare. improved in centuries of conflict, perfected in the fires of wars we barely survived. But here's what you need to understand. I am not trying to make you human. I am trying to keep you alive. He stopped, looking around the chamber at the gathered species. When this war is over, when the Vraxen have been pushed back or defeated, you can return to being the peaceful alliance you were. You can go back to your rules and your agreements, to diplomacy and peaceful solutions. But right now, today, you are in a war for survival. And survival requires you to be something you are not comfortable being. It requires you to be dangerous, Varric spoke, his tone measured. Admiral, we appreciate what humanity has done for us. We appreciate what you personally have sacrificed. But Ambassador Lenara and others voice concerns that many share. We fear that in defeating the Vraxen we may become like them. We may lose the very civilization we are fighting to preserve. Then let me tell you a story about humanity. About who we were and who we became. He activated a display showing images from Earth's history. Battlefields burned by atomic fire. Cities turned to ash. Oceans poisoned. Populations killed. This was Earth during what we call the Consolidation Wars. We nearly destroyed ourselves. We came within hours of making our planet unable to support life. We were brutal, savage, efficient at killing each other. He stopped, letting the images speak. And then we stopped. The images changed, showing Earth as it was now. Green, healing, peaceful. We learned that knowing how to fight does not mean you must fight. We learned that being capable of violence does not make you violent. We learned that you can be dangerous without being cruel, aggressive without being savage, willing to kill without being killers. He looked around the chamber. We learned that the strongest sword is the one that stays in its holder. But you must have a sword first. Rachel Moore, now Kyle's chief of staff, stepped forward with a data pad. If I may, Admiral? He nodded and she addressed the council. In the 3 months since the Battle of Hadrian, we have trained 17 Alliance fleets in human tactics. We have won 8 major battles and pushed the Vraxen back from 12 systems. But here is what the data also shows. Deaths are down 30% compared to before we made these changes. We are not just winning more often. We are losing fewer people doing it. She pulled up statistics that made several representatives lean forward in surprise. Aggressive tactics, when properly done, end conflicts faster. They prevent the enemy from regrouping, from getting reinforcements, from dragging out campaigns that cost millions of lives. By being more aggressive, we are actually more humane. General Marcus Gray, attending through a light picture from the front lines, added his view. I have been fighting for 40 years. I have seen every kind of war you can imagine. And I can tell you this. The cruelest wars are the ones that drag on, the ones where commanders are too careful to take risks, too concerned with keeping their forces safe to actually use them. Those wars kill more people in the long run than any aggressive campaign. Lenara's glow shifted through several colors before settling on a thoughtful amber. Then you are saying that by accepting conflict, by becoming warriors, we are actually saving lives? I am saying that by being willing to fight when fighting is necessary, you end wars faster, and fast wars are always less destructive than slow ones. Varric stood silent for a long moment. Finally he spoke. The Council will think about this, but I suspect we will reach agreement. Continue your work, Admiral Brooks. Teach us to be dangerous, but also teach us to remember who we are when the danger is past. That I can promise. After the council meeting, Kyle found himself in the memorial gardens on the station. Names were carved into crystal walls, thousands of them, beings from dozens of species who had died in the war. He found Nathan Price's name easily. It was near the center, next to the other members of the boarding team who had given their lives at Hadrian. Rachel joined him. He would have been proud, you know, of what we have done, would he? We have turned the Alliance into warriors. We have taught them to kill efficiently. Is that something to be proud of? We have taught them to survive. There is a difference. Nathan died so 5 billion people could live. Because of what we learned from that sacrifice, millions more will live. That is not something to be ashamed of. Jake Stevens found them there, still in his combat uniform, fresh from the front. Admiral, Captain, we just got word from the Vraxen front. Their main fleet is gathering at the Nexus Point. Intelligence says they are planning a major attack. How major? Every ship they have. They are going all in, trying to break through our lines while they still have the strength. We estimate 300 capital ships, maybe twice that, in support vessels. It is the largest fleet movement we have seen from them. That is their entire military. They are betting everything on one battle, which means this could end the war. If we win, they will not have the resources to continue fighting. If we lose, then we do not lose. Sir, the fleet is ready. Every ship we have trained, every tactic we have taught them. They are as prepared as they are going to be. Kyle looked back at the memorial wall, at all those names, all those sacrifices. Nathan Price, who held a door against impossible odds. Lisa Chen, who survived Hadrian but died in a fight 2 months later. Danny Wright, whose clever engineering had saved a dozen ships before a reactor failure took him. All legends. All heroes. All dead. Gather the fleet. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have. We meet them at the nexus point, and we show them what happens when you threaten the galaxy. As they left the memorial garden, Rachel caught up to him. Sir, are you ready for this? This is not just a battle. This is the battle, everything we have been building toward. Kyle thought about that question. Was he ready to risk everything? Was he ready to potentially add thousands more names to that memorial wall? Was he ready to step into the fire one more time? I am ready. We were called Legends of Old Rachel. Stories from the dark times. Myths about warriors who fought impossible odds. The Alliance thought we were made-up fantasies, impossible. We have shown them we are real. Now we show them why the legends were necessary. He stopped at the entrance to the command center, looking back one last time at the memorial garden. We step into the fire, and this time we are taking the Vraxen with us. The fleet gathered over 2 weeks. 500 Alliance warships, the largest collection of military force in galactic history. Ships from 12 species, all trained with human tactics, all prepared to fight with human aggression and determination. Admiral Kyle Brooks stood on the bridge of the Alliance flagship watching the tactical displays as the Vraxen fleet began to appear. 300 massive warships, each one built for conquest, each one crewed by warriors who had never known defeat, until they met humanity. All ships, this is Admiral Brooks. In a few minutes we will fight the largest enemy force this galaxy has seen in 1,000 years. They expect us to retreat. They expect us to fall back, to fight defensively, to follow the old rules. We will not, he stopped. We were called legends of old, stories from a violent past that peaceful species had forgotten. They learned that we were real. Today we remind the Vraxen why legends are feared. Today we step into the fire. And today we win. Captain Jake Stevens stood on his ship's control room. His ship was called the Valiant. He watched the battle map with calm eyes. He had lived through 3 wars on Earth. His experience had taught him to stay calm in danger. His ship was one of 4 human ships in the Hadrian system. Right now they were badly outnumbered by enemy ships. He liked those odds. Commander Brooks is calling, sir. His communications officer, Amy Torres, told him. Jake touched his earpiece. Stevens here. Tell me you have something crazy planned, Kyle. Would I let you down? Kyle's voice had that dark humor that Jake knew meant trouble was coming. Listen carefully. We are not playing their game anymore. No defensive flying. No running away to regroup. We are going to hit them like we hit the Confederation back home. Jake felt himself smile. The Confederation War had been terrible, but it taught humans hard lessons about fighting when you were weaker than the enemy. I am listening. The Vraxen fight in tight groups always. They use overlapping shields and lots of firepower. Their way of fighting is about having more force and better numbers. Kyle stopped talking for a moment. They have never fought anyone who fights dirty. On the Valiant's control room, the crew listened hard. Most of them were veterans, men and women who had seen Earth's last wars before humanity made peace. They understood what Kyle meant. Helen Park was the weapons officer. She pulled up a new display. The Vraxen ships are flying close together. Standard battle circle with shields connected. They are moving toward the space stations. Perfect. Jake, I am sending you the attack plan now. You will see it is quite different from Alliance tactics. The data came through and Jake read it quickly. Then he read it again more slowly. Kyle, this is insane. The Alliance commanders will never agree to this. Good thing I am in command then. You have 30 minutes to get in position. Brooks out. Jake turned to his crew. All right, people. We are about to show these aliens what human cleverness looks like. Helen, prepare weapons. Amy, talk to the other ships. And someone tell engineering we are about to do something stupid with the reactor. Chief Engineer Danny Wright's voice came through the speaker. I heard that, Captain. How stupid are we talking about? Somewhere around very dangerous. I need you to prepare to release all the starboard plasma on my signal. There was silence. Sir, that would create a cloud of superhot plasma that would... Oh, that is mean. I like it. The Alliance fleet was still running away when the 4 human ships broke formation. On the Alliance command ship, Admiral Corthan watched with confusion as the human ships flew directly toward the Vraxen battlesphere. What are they doing? He demanded. They are flying into the danger zone. They will be destroyed. His tactical officer studied the displays with growing fear. Sir, they are not following any normal attack pattern. Their approach paths are random. No, wait. They are spinning and creating overlapping paths. I do not understand why. Admiral Chenwei understood perfectly. He had fought in the Unification Wars. He had seen what desperate smart human commanders could do when normal fighting failed. The purpose is chaos. The Vraxen did exactly what was predicted. Their heavy warships turned to face the approaching human ships. Weapons charged. The Vraxen had complete confidence they would win. 4 small ships against 12 massive ones. The math was simple. The math was wrong. Just as the Vraxen fleet opened fire, the human ships split in a coordinated move that would have been impossible for the bigger Alliance ships. The Valiant and Defiant dove below. The Tempest and Thunder climbed above. All 4 ships were now moving at speeds that pushed their crews to the edge of passing out. The Vraxen fire missed. Huge energy bolts passed through empty space. Before they could adjust, the human ships struck, but they did not strike where expected. Instead of hitting the warship's main bodies, each human ship released small missiles. They were traveling very fast, too small and too quick for the Vraxen defense systems to track well. The missiles punched through the connected shields by finding tiny gaps that math said should not exist, but human experience said always did. Then Jake gave the order. Release plasma now. The Valiant expelled its plasma reserves in a controlled explosion. The superhot gas expanded in a bright sphere. The missiles detonated inside the cloud at the perfect time. The result was a chain reaction that lit up the Hadrian system like a small star being born. The other 3 human ships did the same thing at the same time. 4 plasma explosions surrounded the Vraxen formation. Each one released waves that disrupted the carefully coordinated shield network. For exactly 6 seconds, the Vraxen warships were vulnerable. 6 seconds was all the human ships needed. Heavy metal rounds, each one carrying massive kinetic energy, slammed into the Vraxen hulls. The aliens had built their ships to withstand energy weapons, to deflect beams and laser fire. They had not expected chunks of metal traveling at near light speed. The first Vraxen warship simply came apart, its spine broken by the impact. The second lasted longer, but not much. The third managed to restore its shields, but the damage was done. On the Alliance command ship, Admiral Corthan stared in disbelief. Impossible. Those weapons should not have gone through. The Vraxen shields are rated for... This does not make sense. It makes perfect sense if you understand that sometimes the best way to fight advanced technology is with very simple physics, mass, speed, timing. We have been using these ideas since we threw the first rock. The Vraxen fleet was in chaos now. Their formation was broken. Their shields were flickering. They tried to regroup, but the human ships were already moving to their next positions. Never staying still, never predictable, always pushing, always attacking. And then the Alliance fleet, seeing the opening, finally stopped running away. Rachel Moore was coordinating the battle from the war room. She watched with fierce satisfaction as the blue markers on the tactical display surged forward. The Alliance ships might prefer defensive fighting, but they were not cowards. Given a chance, given hope, they fought. Kyle stood beside her. His face was lit by the floating pictures. Now comes the hard part. Rachel looked at him. Sir, we are winning. We are winning this battle. But the Vraxen do not surrender. They will fight to the last ship, and they will try to take as many of us with them as possible. He touched a control, highlighting 3 Vraxen warships that were positioning themselves between the human fleet and the planet below. See those ships? They are preparing to bomb the surface. If they cannot win, they will make sure the Hadrian system is useless to us. Rachel felt cold fear. 5 billion people lived on Hadrian Prime. Kyle was already moving, already planning. Get me Jake and prepare the dropships. If the fleet cannot stop those ships in time, we will have to do it the old way. Sir, you are talking about boarding them. Going inside Vraxen warships. No one has ever successfully boarded a Vraxen ship. Kyle looked at her and she saw in his eyes something ancient and terrible. something that had been made in humanity's long history of war. Then I guess we will be the first. Get me a strike team. Volunteers only. Sir, I volunteer. He looked at her for a moment, then nodded. Get your gear. We drop in 20 minutes. In the drop bay, soldiers were already gathering. Sergeant Lisa Chen checked her rifle. Corporal Nathan Price was checking his armor and saying a quiet prayer to whatever gods watched over soldiers about to do something very dangerous. Commander Kyle Brooks walked into the bay and every soldier stood at attention. He looked at them. These men and women who had volunteered to board an alien warship, to fight an enemy that had crushed civilizations, to walk into fire without fear. We were called legends of old, stories the Alliance told about fierce warriors from the dark days. They thought we were myths, made up, impossible. Today we show them the truth. Today we remind the galaxy what humans do when everything is on the line. He raised his voice. Today we walk into the fire, and we do not burn. The soldiers roared their approval and the dropships launched into battle.